everybody. It is Friday Eve, a great day, and I'm reading today from Arcane Ops. It is book 7 in the Federal Agents of Magic, and it's on pre-order today. Amazon has been taking so long to actually publish a book that since we had this ready, T.R. Campbell, we went ahead and did a pre-order, and that took 24 hours, but it's up, so you can actually go pre-order it now. It will arrive on your Kindle on the day that it comes out, no problem. And today I'm going to do a snippet. You can just barely see the top of Lois's head behind me. She's sitting in the window looking longingly outside. There she is. She was just outside, so no one feel bad for her. And things are going great. I think my birthday is 8 days away, in case anyone's counting with me. I will be 60 years old, which shocks me, and taking off for Niagara Falls. So let's get started with the reading. I hope everyone's having a great afternoon or evening if you're in Europe. Grab your lunch or your dinner, and let's get started. Snippet from Arcane Ops. This is chapter 1, T.R. Campbell, Federal Agents of Magic, book 7. Let's start over. Okay. Ice shards hurtled at Diana from all directions, her attacker's abilities sufficiently impressive to threaten her from every angle. She responded with a raised arm spin that created a shell of frozen power around her, and drew energy from the matching magic when the icicles struck and failed to penetrate. She smiled through the barrier at the distorted view of her teacher, whose head looked to be about twice its normal size, thanks to the funhouse mirror effect of the ice. Don't laugh, seriously, don't laugh. Her internal self materialized in a corner of her mind and nodded agreement, equally aware that to laugh at the dark elf was to court one's own destruction. But as her adversary moved and her head appeared to increase in size even more, the mirth escaped her control. The scowl it generated was 3 times worse than normal, as was the flaming wave she hurled at her student. Diana conjured her own fire sphere to intercept it, but couldn't find a way out of the relentless assault to counter it. Apparently, the lesson for today is how to maintain a defensive bubble. At least it's less tiring than usual. In the next moment, the attack vanished, and she banished her defense, ready for the next. When the tentacles erupted all around her opponent, she panicked for an instant. Her dislike of shadow was manageable, but the tentacle version of the magic reached into her soul and suffused her with dread. She'd spent too much time dealing with the things, or trapped by them, to respond with the kind of rational detachment she needed to combat them. Force blades materialized in her hands, and she slashed at the approaching appendages, not quite wildly, but definitely not as calmly and deliberately as she might have preferred. Her teacher fired shadow orbs at her, and she swung the magical swords faster to intercept them, while she fended off the grasping limbs. She managed to hold her own effectively, which gave her a second of pride that lasted only until the moment when Nylot snuck a shadowy orb in at her feet, and she missed the block. The impact knocked her legs out from under her, and she managed to flop to her side as she fell with a solid thump. She staggered upright, ready to defend herself, but the drow stood with her arms folded and stared at her. The agent frowned. What? Nylot's voice was entirely matter of fact. You need to be better. I'm well aware that I don't live up to your expectations, O most honored master of the magical arts. The other woman snorted. She looked extra prissy today, clad in a tight red dress that buttoned up the left side from the top of her knee-high black boots to her neck. Her snowy hair was slicked back, and her dark skin shone in the flickering light of the basement. As always, Diana was underdressed in tactical pants, boots, and a concert t-shirt. Adamant's face stared from today's selection. Her own hair had been chopped to an inch to match the chunk that had been burned away in battle. When her teacher spoke again, it was still without judgment. Your enemies grow stronger and increase in number. If you don't reach your full potential, they may defeat you. I'm sure you'd cry for days. The dark elf raised an elegant eyebrow. I have invested a great deal of time and energy on your behalf and opened myself to possible risk as well. Do not forget, your enemies attacked me directly. Diana shook her head. I believe they were your enemies too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Drevin seemed rather interested in you. The other woman laughed. Indeed so. Arranged marriages are such a bother. He was deeply offended when I chose not to agree to the practice. Her jaw dropped, but she gathered herself and decided there were some things she really didn't need to know. So, how do I improve? It feels like I've come about as far as I can with fire, ice, lightning, and force. My telekinesis is fine. That leaves shadow, and we are both well aware that I'm hopeless at that. True, the drow nodded. More practice will enhance your existing skills, of course, but you are correct that the largest gains have already been accomplished. There are only 2 more paths for growth, and they really are the same: a Rosden artifact or fury. The idea of having one of the slimy, invasive artifacts, she was sure they would be slimy and simply knew it in her bones. Working its way under her skin was a concept that made her nauseous whenever it occurred to her. She swallowed hard and replied, "The sword, then." "The sword, yes," Nylat shrugged. "Well, we are done here for today. I will let you know when I have a new idea on where to pursue the final piece of Rosden's vengeance." She stepped into the portal her teacher created to send her home and noticed as she crossed over that the drow wore a fierce scowl. Damn, I hope that's not my fault. When the gentle but insistent request for connection had pressed against her mind, Nylat had been both shocked and suspicious. She lowered her defenses only enough to receive the message, which allowed her to know the source and the content, but permitted no further invasion. It was a sophisticated use of mental magic on her part, but decades of practice had made her an expert at protecting her consciousness from others. Her first thought and response involved a great deal of colorful language, and her second had been to get rid of her student as quickly as possible. What on earth and Oraceren would Iressa want to discuss with me? She and the other witch had never gotten along, and even less so once the woman had entered the radius of Dreven's influence. The drow had assumed, after the battle in the Kamana, that all the supposedly secret members of the Remembrance Circle had declared themselves her enemies. To have one seeker out so soon after that event was not an expected occurrence, to say the least. She spoke the commands and made the required gestures to lock her shop and activate the defenses set throughout. After the building's unfortunate service as a battleground, she had updated everything and had brought craftspeople in to repair what had been broken. There were now more surprises awaiting an invader than there had been before, and she had ensured that the outer wards were as strong as she could make them. She summoned a cushion and sat in the lotus position within her ward rings, inside the outermost but outside the innermost, to limit the area where the other woman's magic would function. There was little doubt that Aressa would make similar arrangements or already had. She closed her eyes and stilled her mind before she locked onto the trace of energy the witch had left behind. She wove her own power into it and released it along the path to the other woman. The witch's image appeared in the center of the wards, also seated on a pillow. She was dressed entirely in clean black, as was her wont, and wore her typical smug expression. Nyla inclined her head and the witch spoke. "Thank you for accepting my request to speak." "Of course. We are sisters, are we not?" Witches, long forced to defend themselves against the attempts of wizards to subordinate them, respected the connection their magic and the unified purpose of protecting their own power from others who would take it gave them. That history wouldn't be enough to keep her from killing the other woman, if necessary, but she'd think about it for a moment first. Doubtless she feels the same. The thin smile Aressa bestowed upon her confirmed it. Her pale skin was a stark contrast to her dress, but she had a little color in her cheeks as if she was energized by something. And if it's good for her, it's likely not good for me, or Diana, or both. Her voice was smooth and seductive, as always. "Nylat, I wish to give you an opportunity to distance yourself from all this." She waved a negligent hand. "It is not your fight, and there is no need for you to be involved in it." Dreven seemed to disagree. A true smile broke out across the witch's features. He did, but now he is dead, and those of us who knew him celebrate his end. "Are you sure? He's cheated the Reaper before." Iressa showed her teeth in an even wider grin. "I was there. I saw the knife pierce his heart and can assure you he is gone. He probably deserved a more torturous farewell, but one cannot have it all, I suppose." Nylat nodded. "Very good. However, it is not up to you to determine what is or is not my fight." The positive expression vanished as if it had never been, instantly replaced by a scowl. "What do you have to gain? The appreciation of the humans you surround yourself with? Have you truly forgotten yourself so much? Her reply was cold but level. I'm not sure you're one to speak ill of my compatriots, Oressa. Your circle was laughable, and your connection to the witch in the city above is beneath you. She's damaged goods, at the least, and more likely broken and insane. The woman shrugged and her hair fell perfectly with the motion. Oressa is always perfect. Regardless, you are at a moment of choice, Drow. You can choose to disengage from those I name my enemies and live your life free of my involvement. Or you can count yourself among them and face the consequences of that decision. Truly, I cannot imagine why you would consider doing the latter. The dark elf smiled. And yet, that's my choice. If it's between you and the people I've met here, there's no comparison. You're at best a clinging sycophant who mistakes the desire of powerful men to get into your pants for their respect for your power. You deserve the fate you've courted. Oressa shook her head and a sad smile curved her lips. Having been born unattractive, it's logical that you might not understand this, but what I have is both, their desire and their respect. The more powerful the witch or wizard, the more attracted they are to what I offer, and the more I can use them to further my ends. But plainly, you come up short on both measures, power and desirability. It must be so very difficult being you. Perhaps that's why you live underground as an outcast. Nylat grinned. I look forward to watching you fall, Oressa. You and whatever master you serve now that Drevin is no more. Her laughter was seductive, even with the Drow's very real dislike to temper it. I never served Drevin, regardless of what I might have led him to believe. There were always plans behind plans, and more hidden behind those. He served his purpose, and now we will destroy you and your friends in flaming ruin. The game until now was simply to test and discern the edges of the battlefield. The witch shook her head. From here on, I'm afraid, you will experience the result of your choices, and I do not expect you will like them. She rolled her eyes. Since they've required me to talk to you, I already dislike them, vehemently. She canceled the connection, and the woman's image evaporated before she could respond. The dark elf sighed, rose smoothly to her feet, and sent the cushion toward its resting place with a minor expenditure of magic. I will need to warn Diana that we've poked the enemy sufficiently to anger them, she snorted. We're too of a kind, it seems, when it comes to our ability to irritate others. So that is a sneak peek of Arcane Ops, which you can pre-order now. And hello, Charlie, and hello, Grace the Wonderful. And I hope everybody enjoyed this snippet and is enjoying the series. You can pre-order now. Hope you're having a great Friday Eve. I am busy working. I pretty much don't do anything alone these days. Things have gotten complicated. And so keep your eyes out for announcements of different giveaways. Doing one to celebrate my upcoming birthday. That one will hopefully be starting tomorrow. And if you haven't joined the Facebook group, that's the best way to make sure you stay in on all the giveaways along with the newsletter. Hope you all have a great day. Tomorrow is Flashback Friday, so I'll be reading a little Shay from I Fear No Evil. Those of you who love Shay Carson, this is your chance, and I will see you all tomorrow. Hello, Nancy. Glad you're here. You got here just in time. By the way, Grace, the wonderful Grace, is posting all of these videos on a YouTube channel, Martha Carr Author. So if you miss one, or you need somebody to read you to sleep, or to spend some time with you while you're having dinner, they'll all be available. And again, if you have any questions you want to send in, please do. Be happy to answer them. And I will talk to y'all later. Keep your eye out for all the giveaways. There's a bunch of great ones coming.